He's a tough son. Not necessarily. I'm glad I don't live here, but I like him. You know? But Obama, look, let me just tell you something here. Remember this here. The US dollar is a petrodollar. It was a deal cut with Saudi Arabia. Nixon promised Saudis that they would protect Saudi Arabia from the Jews. Because the Jews could kick Saudi Arabia's ass. So Obama pissed off the Jews, and he pissed off Saudi Arabia because he cut a deal with Iran. The Jews and Saudis hate Iran. He gave Iran how many billion dollars? 140 billion. Obama gave Iran $140 billion and said, keep building the nuclear plant. So Netanyahu will not talk to Obama, and the king of Saudi Arabia won't talk to Obama, and then we wonder why we have terrorism. We should send Putin in there, you know? Kill them all. You know what I'm talking about? So, these people do not need Tom. These people do. These people are never audited. These people, I'm always audited. Trump is always audited. This is Obama. This is Hillary. This is Trump. Putin is above all this. Please, but I want you to think about this. Who are your friends here? See, my friends are all over here. I have a lot of friends here, but my close friends are here. None of them are voting for Obama or Hillary. Can't vote for Trump either. But we agree with Trump more. We agree with Mr. Putin more than these guys. That's politics. So take 1 minute and discuss who are your friends here and here. If you have no friends over here, then you know I can't say, Tom, can you find me a good attorney? Can you find me this? Can you find? These guys already have a team. These guys have no team. Very big difference. So take 1 minute and discuss who your friends are in these 4 things. Ready, go.
Еще хочу сказать спасибо, то, что поднимаются такие вопросы фундаментальные. И если вы думаете, что в Америке мало они говорят, в России тоже о них мало говорят, и мы очень рады, что здесь хотя бы поднимаются эти вопросы. Длинный вопрос, если позволите, потому что много людей просило задать разные вопросы. Вы рассказывали, что, скажем так, экономика делится на разные этапы, где была Бреттон-Вудская система, потом Никсон отменил золотой стандарт. И сейчас наверняка человечество и люди находятся на новом пороге. И как с ваших слов, этот порог достаточно кризисный. Но этот кризис в первую очередь происходит на большом макроэкономическом уровне. А что могут делать сейчас обычные граждане, особенно российские, для того, чтобы выстроить правильную систему? И очень важный вопрос. Вот эта команда плана Б, что будет являться для нее результатом? И возможно ли в 21 веке такое понятие, как индивидуальный инвестиционный индекс? Это очень такой размытый термин, где человек сам становится для себя своим процентом, где он сам все макроэкономические инструменты применяет на микроуровне. Спасибо.
answer is, I saw this coming in 1983. And I read a book from a man named Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. It was called The Grunch of Giants. And grunch stood for Gross Universal Cash Heist, what you call macroeconomics. And the grunch of giants was how the ultra-rich ripped everybody off. So every time the markets crashed, the Federal Reserve Bank printed money to save the rich. But it made the middle class and poor. So every time the market crashed, the Federal Reserve would print more money, dropped interest rates to save the rich. But it screwed the poor and middle class. So that was in 1983, and I had to decide for myself, who do I want to be? Do I want to be poor and middle class? Or do I want to be rich? I cannot save the poor and middle class. I can barely save my own family. My brothers and sisters, all master's degrees, PhDs, no money. They're not making what's wrong. So what I did was I created this board game in 1996 to teach people. So please pay attention. If you're interested, how many people have played this game here? And I'll explain it. Yeah, thank you. It was for you to teach your friends. People teaching people. Your schools will never teach this. Because our schools teach people to be this and this. This board game is to teach people to be here and here. I'll explain a little bit more later. But Tom and I were just in South Africa. We went to a very, very rich school, black and white. And we played this game for 2 days with these very rich young people, 15, 16 years old. And then these young, black and white rich kids will go into what they call the townships. And the townships are where the blacksmith. So we have rich kids going into poor kids and playing this game together, teaching them what we teach them. So, I appreciate the question. I am very concerned. But our schools are here. Obama here. Clinton here. Trump here. No chance it's going to go this way. So that's why I create this. But the reason I asked to have Tom with me is because this is what school doesn't teach. See, these people have this. That is such a big difference. Like I said, I can ask Tom, I said, Tom, do you know a good real estate guy? Oh, we know who the good ones are. We have to know who they are. These guys don't know anybody. So that's what we're teaching the young people in Africa, is that these people here make them their team. Schools still teach you this way. The reason I wanted you to discuss, because in schools, you're not supposed to discuss. You're supposed to listen to me. And I told you, I'm not the smart person, but I have smart friends. So So that's why we have this game here. That's why all of my books, I'm afraid I don't know what the titles are, but all of my books are about how the rich rip off the poor and middle class. The way they rip off the poor and middle class is via the school system. The story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, my poor dad was the head of education, just like Obama. Very highly educated, good man. Doesn't know anything about money. That's why the people are getting poorer in America, because we have people like Obama teaching them. That's why we're poor. Mr. Obama thinks that if you give people money, you save them. I think when you give people money, you make them poorer. So that's why Trump and I are good friends. We'd rather do this here. And if you can teach other people, it makes it easier. But this is the big difference here, is these are the rich people. These are the people that have a team. These guys don't have a team. Very big difference. These people never get audited. I'm always audited. Trump is always audited. Trump pays no taxes. These people pay taxes. Who do you want to be? That's all we're saying. Okay? Give me a hand, please. Thank you. So what I'd like to do, like I said, the reason Tom and I travel together is things are changing so fast today. So what I'm going to show you is my team. Tom is crucial to my team. Tom, very smart, one of the smartest people I know. Some of the people in my team, very, very smart. The rest of the guys, entrepreneurs, not that smart, but they're good at making money. So if you're going to get rich, you have to have a great team. So this is the video of my team. It's a program called EDP, Entrepreneur Development Program. We're starting it in the States, okay? So this is not a commercial, this is just my team. So please play the video.
I went to school and I got a job that I hated. So everybody said, hey, why don't you do what you love? I quit my job, do what I love. I'm an entrepreneur and I make a little money, but I pay more taxes, so that's gone. I gotta take care of my own health care. I'm constantly working. I'm not getting ahead.
Most entrepreneurs don't become rich.
I'm stuck.
A few entrepreneurs become very rich.
What am I doing wrong?
Business is a team sport. There are millions and millions of entrepreneurs who are working very hard but not making much money, working very hard and not getting ahead. My name is Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm probably best known for the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Many people fall into the trap that this young entrepreneur did. You know, they go to school, get a job, they hate it, they do what they love, becoming an entrepreneur, but they never get ahead. I want you to see my team, because business is a team sport. That's why I don't have to be the smartest guy. Your team is probably the biggest asset you can have. When you think of some of the great entrepreneurs, some of the greatest are Steve Jobs, who never finished school, Bill Gates, who never finished school, Walt Disney never finished school, Thomas Edison never finished school, Richard Branson was a high school dropout. All of these guys, even though they didn't finish school, had a very smart team. So I'm sitting with Shane today now. He is the president of Rich Dad, but also is your chief technology officer. And if I tried to run the technology department, you'd be out of business.
Very much so. Well, the one thing that we're really strong in testing new technology, new products to come out. Because when something hits the market in today's world, especially with technology, you have no idea if it's going to hit or not, and you better be on the cusp of not just whether that tool works, but also what the developers are thinking. What are they trying to accomplish with this tool?
It took an entrepreneur like you to be the leader for technology.
Yep. Today, all businesses, no matter what business you're in, must be technology businesses. If your business is not a technology business, you're out of business.
Introduce you to Garrett Sutton, he's my corporations attorney, or more asset protection it's called. But you got to protect yourself without the attorney.
Absolutely. In our society, it's a very litigious society. And if you have, it means people sue all the time. And
If you're planning on being rich,
you should protect.
can you fix it or not fix it?
I hate it. So everybody said, hey, why don't you do what you love? I quit my job, I do what I love. I'm an entrepreneur and I make a little money, but I pay more taxes, so that's gone. I gotta take care of my own health care. I'm constantly working. I'm not getting ahead.
Most entrepreneurs don't become rich.
I'm stuck.
A few entrepreneurs become very rich.
Make the big money is when the market crashes, it goes down. So an entrepreneur wants to know, how do I make money on the upside and how do I make money on the downside?
You guys read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You read in the book that the only reason to be in business is to buy real estate. It's real estate that allows you to use debt and taxes to make a lot of money and pay less taxes. So this is my partner here, Ken McElroy. He's my advisor on real estate. After the real estate market crashed in 2007, we probably died in the heaven.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say to entrepreneurs about the importance of making real estate part of their strategy?
Well, one of the things I love about Rich Dad Poor Dad is you talk about cash flow and property management, and that's why I resonated with that book, and it is the truth. I mean, you know, there are going to be good times and bad times, but if you have cash flow, you're going to be just fine.
So what would you say to entrepreneurs about real estate and debt?
Well, unfortunately, debt makes most people poor, but for a few entrepreneurs, debt makes them very, very rich.
Well, every entrepreneur must know about taxes. I am not an expert on tax. That's why I have Tom Wheelwright. He is the smartest person in the world, as far as I'm concerned, because I make millions of dollars and pay very little in taxes daily. And so if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have a guy like Tom on your team. So what do entrepreneurs have to know about taxes?
Well, first of all, entrepreneurs need to know that the tax law is just a series of incentives. And it's incentives for specifically business owners and for active investors. Not for passive investors, but for active investors.
Can you really help an employee?
No, not at all.
Can you help a small business entrepreneur?
A little bit more, but still just a little bit.
What would you say to entrepreneurs who are paying taxes?
Well, what I would say is, if you're an entrepreneur and you're paying tax, you just got the wrong tax advisor.
And what Tom is saying here is this: Tom advises me how to be an entrepreneur, what to do with what, to actively do what I'm doing. So I make a lot of money and pay very little tax.
You just have to understand this. The smart entrepreneur just doesn't pay tax.
Many people ask me, why don't I? Alcohol treatment centers. You also work with veterans, firefighters, and police officers. It's a similar challenge.
That's correct, because alcoholism, prescription drug abuse is a huge problem, and that's a problem that we take on.
So what would you say to people about greedy people versus social capitalists?
We all know that there's a lot of greedy people in the world. We all know that there's a lot of capitalists and entrepreneurs out there that are making a lot of money ripping you off. But you don't have to do that. As a social entrepreneur, you can make a lot of money and do a lot of good in the world.
I'd like to introduce you to Mike Sullivan, a very important member of our team. Mike is a CEO. Now you may ask, if I'm an entrepreneur, why do I need a CEO? And I'll tell you the reason why. Because way back when I first started out on developing a surfing off business, the business went straight up and came straight down. And when I asked my rich dad, so what happened? He says, Robert, you're an entrepreneur, you'll never be a CEO. So the reason we have Mike Sullivan is because he's an entrepreneur and you're a CEO, right? What is some of your background? And how did you start off as a lawyer and then become an entrepreneur and now CEO?
Well, when I practiced law, I found that I was better off running my own business, and as soon as I got into business, I found that I liked it a lot better than being a lawyer, and I've been in business ever since.
Would you say it's a mistake that many entrepreneurs make to try to be a CEO or an entrepreneur?
So many entrepreneurs think that they're all things to all people, and just because you're an entrepreneur does not mean that you're a CEO.
So Mike, what are some of the mistakes that entrepreneurs make? A CEO might not make?
Well, an entrepreneur is oftentimes aimed at one thing, a product, or they're good at IT, or they're good at sales or whatever, but they don't understand that you have to be good at everything as a CEO. You have to learn to work with a whole group of different ideas and people in order to make a company work. Just because you're an entrepreneur does not make you a CEO.
I want to introduce to you the most important person in my life, my sweetheart Kim. And I first saw this beautiful woman in 1984, and it just took my breath away.
On our first date, Robert asked me, what is it you want to do with your life? And I was working as an employee at the time, and I wasn't being very successful at it. And I said, right off the top, I said, I want my own business.
So Kim is very successful in the B quadrant business, but also when I showed her what my rich dad taught me about real estate, she took off on that. And so now she, my partner Ken McElroy, and I own over 10,000 units. We own hotels, golf courses, oil wells, and all this. And I would not be here without this very powerful and smart and beautiful rich woman. So she wrote the book called Rich Woman. She and I created the cash flow game together in '96, because by 1994, we started in '84, by '94 we're financially free. So what message do you have for women?
Women, you and I know that when it comes to money, women are smarter than men. So isn't it time you take charge of your life and your money and become an entrepreneur and a professional investor? Business is a team sport. Who's on your team?
My sweetheart Kim, if she wishes she was with you, she'd be very proud of all the women in this room. And she does mean it that when it comes to money, women are much smarter than men. And so that's one of the most important things, lessons I had to learn, was that I had to have a very good life partner. And we study together, we learn together. She is very, very good here in the B quadrant, but she's better here in the I quadrant. And that is probably one of the biggest reasons I'm a successful man, is because I have a very smart woman who runs the show. Any comments on Kim?
So, when there's a deal to look at, Robert will say, yeah, I like the deal. Kim will look at all the numbers. She's very careful about every single deal that they get into. When I'm talking to them about their taxes, I'll talk about ideas with Robert, but with Kim, I can go through every single detail. And she'll understand it, and she'll go, oh, but we need to do this. So, between the two, Kim's way smarter.
So if I can leave you with one thought for today, that, a little bit more to go. But the question is, who's on your team? Do you have a CEO? You see, the difference is most of these guys here don't have a CEO. I have a CEO because I'm not very smart. I have a CEO, CFO, CIO, CMO, and that's why I'm a rich person, because I have very, very smart people running a big business for me. And on this side here, that's where I have my accountants, my attorneys, my bankers, and all that. We're putting deals together. And my wife is a very important part of that team. But we had to get out of this side and onto this. And it took years to find that team. So take a moment and discuss what you learned from that video. And it could be the most important thing you do when you leave this room today, is start looking for your team. Ready, go. Discuss what you learned. As you can see here, I'm very big on team. The reason this is possibly the worst quadrant of all, small business. Everybody is against you. So I had to get over here, but I had to build a big enough business where I could hire a CEO, CFO, CIO, presidents, marketing people, and all that. But this is the quadrant I love. So I'm going to give you some final things. Number one is for Plan B. These are my suggestions. Start thinking about your team. It took years to find that team. It's not easy. But when you find really good people, you hang on to them. Really fabulous. So Tom has been, how long have we been working together now?
15 years.
15 years. We had made millions together. And every person on my team teaches. The reason we teach is called the law of reciprocity. The more you give, the more you receive. We don't want anybody in our team who doesn't want to teach, because that's how we solve the problems of the world. So you give and you receive. We learn more by teaching, don't we?
Always. We were in Estonia with a private university the first 2 days of this week. And I was telling Robert, I'm going, I don't know what these guys are learning, but I'm learning a ton. Every time we teach, we learn a new way to think about it, a new way to look at it.
Yeah. We're teaching them how to be entrepreneurs using the cash flow game. Okay? And the first day we played it once for 1 hour. It takes a while to learn it. At the end of the day, we played it again for 1 hour. So then one day they only played it for 2 hours. But each time they were getting faster and smarter. Then on the third day, they played this game again. They were super fast. But the trick for day 3 was they had to use debt. You see, everybody's been taught that debt is bad. But if you use the game, you can't lose, because you only play money. So they're on the third day, they're learning to use debt. Because when I'm looking for an investment, I don't want something that's going to take my money. I want something where there's debt, that my banker or an investor is going to give me the money. I don't ever want to use my money. So on the third day for 1 hour, third time they play it, second day, they play for debt. So that's why the team is, your plan B on the team, you have to have a person like Tom. Because we were laughing last night, because we were told you guys only pay 6% tax here, right?
Yes. Even 3% if you are in cream. In Crimea, 3%.
What did you hear last night?
It was pretty funny because everybody in the group was Russian except us, and
Said, how much tax do you pay? They say 6%, 13%. It's a very small income tax. I said, well, then where's the government getting their money? Because the government has to get the money, right? They're getting it somewhere. Oh, well, we have a value-added tax that's 18%. Oh, and we have social taxes that are 43%. Well, that's where the money is. So it doesn't matter what kind of tax it is, you're still getting killed by taxes. So you still have to have a team member who can help you with the taxes, no matter what kind of tax it is.
So that's why we're cracking up. And how can you only pay 6% tax? You know, you fighters burn through that faster than anything we know. Plus, money will kill those guys in the level. I went to war twice. It's expensive, you know. I know. So here, this is what we're talking about. It goes back to the quadrant here. And these are American taxes. But Tom knows. Tell them how much in taxes in America, but they're pretty similar all over the world.
Yeah, and in America it's primarily income tax. So you have to translate it social taxes and other taxes. But in the EU, about 40%.
This is all over the world, is about the same.
In the S, it goes up. Because even here, if you're in the S, you have to pay both the employer share and the employee share, right? You're paying both sides. So you're paying the social taxes on both sides. So it goes up when you're in the S quadrant. Over here, it goes down. It actually goes down to about 20%. And that's worldwide. But down here, see, the government wants you to be an investor. They want you to have benefits. For example, capital gains dividends are taxed less than over here, even in Russia. I was reading about that this morning. Well, down here, you can get down to 0%. That's how come Robert and Donald Trump pay 0% because this is where they live. They live in the icon. They're professional investors.
Okay. Same as here. So when you say to your child, go to school and get a job, you're just going to pay higher taxes. Or become a doctor or a lawyer, higher taxes. Or like the entrepreneur on the video, he's working really hard, just pays higher taxes. So when I was about 25 years old, my rich dad said, start here. So today I'm here. These are the richest people in the world. That's what this game teaches. I wanted to come here. And the reason I make so much money is because the tax law is based upon debt and taxes. The more debt I use, the less tax I pay. So that's why I was coming out of that last cycle from about 2008 to 2016 with about 20 million in free cash. If I didn't reinvest it here, I pay tax. Or I could buy another piece of real estate and may lose it. So that's why Tom's suggestion was go to an insurance company. So I'm going to hide my money. So I start my own insurance company. So that 25 million goes into hiding there. I don't pay tax on it. 2 years later, it comes out. So that's why you have to have a very smart tax guy. I'm sure Putin knows a couple of them, because these guys here make the rules. When you ask who makes the laws, it's these guys here, same as in America. Okay. One more thing, can you talk about who buys stocks and bonds and all that stuff? What's the difference?
These guys. So I look at, would you rather buy retail or wholesale? I'd rather buy wholesale, pay wholesale prices than retail prices. I'd rather pay wholesale. Wholesale, half price. I'd rather pay half price. Yeah, if you have a choice, you want to buy wholesale. These guys all pay retail. You go buy a stock on the stock market or a mutual fund or an ETF, you're paying retail for your investment. If you invest with these guys, you're paying wholesale. But if you're over here, you're actually the manufacturer, so you're paying even lower than wholesale. So the question is, how much do you pay for your investment? You pay manufacturer price, wholesale price, or retail price? These guys pay retail.
And my insurance company is going to cost me zero, I'm going to pay zero tax. So that's why the mindset is completely different here. These are the richest people in the world. Putin's friends are all over here. I promise you that. Hillary Clinton's friends are here. Trump's friends are here. Obama's friends are over here.
This is Obama will win.
No, I'm not kidding. When I look at Obama's friends, they're all over here. They're high income. They make a lot of money, like movie stars and musicians and CEOs and all that. They're all over here. The really rich are over here. If you look at all the people that support Obama, they're over here. They make millions of dollars, but they pay a lot of tax. And these guys here make billions and pay no tax. This is the other thing. These guys can come over here too, but they're not smart enough. Plan B. Have a plan for a crash. At minimum right now, if I was here, I'd be buying silver. Because I think the U.S. is going to do its best to bust the ruble. We're in a currency war. So the odds are the value of the ruble will go down, but the price of gold and silver stays up. So at minimum, everybody can buy some silver or some gold and stuff like that. But when I look at a crash, this is from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sorry, it's kind of small. Let me do it bigger. How many people read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Okay, good. So this is familiar. For those who didn't, this is all Rich Dad, Poor Dad is. It's called a financial statement. It's a book on accounting. That's why Tom travels with me. So this here is income, expense, asset, liability. These guys, Obama's friends, focus here. Sports stars, movie stars, make a lot of money. And this here is Rich Dad. So this is Poor Dad, this is Rich Dad. We focus here. So this cash flow game is the only game that teaches you to focus here. So if you play the game 10 times, you teach 10 people, your mind will start focusing here. Now the good thing that happens in a crash, okay, when a crash occurs, these things come up for sale. Okay, when markets crash, assets come up for sale. In my the guy Andy Tanner was teaching that when markets crash, that's when you get rich. So when markets crash, these things get cheap. It's called, in English, a short squeeze. So all of these guys over here who have things like Rolls Royces, nice houses, boats, and stuff, or gold or silver, because they got wiped out here, they have to sell. They're forced to sell what's valuable. Raise your hand if they have to sell what's valuable. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying. Good. So today I was in the hotel looking at the Rolls Royces. I'm going to wait for a crash. And somebody will have a Rolls Royce on sale for cheap. Everybody's laughing. That's when you buy houses. That's when you buy Rolls Royces. That's when you buy nice things. Because these guys have nothing, and they get squeezed out of the market. So that's what happens there. That's why crashes are very, very good. Here's my little list. If you want, I would take a course on options trading. When markets crash, the thing that's terrible about real estate is you can't get out. You have to be very smart with real estate, very smart with business. But with stocks, when prices drop fast, you can make more money when prices are going down. So for years I took options course of trade. So just recently, Petrobras, which is out of Brazil, their stock, Petrobras is the biggest oil company in Brazil. Their stock was trading for $72 a share. When the oil prices dropped and Dilma was caught cheating, the price of Petrobras dropped to $1. So it went from 72 to $1. At that point, I started picking up Petrobras stock. It went down to $1.03. So I started buying Petrobras stock at $3, but I was paying $1 for it. If you don't understand, don't worry about it. But that's how the rich get richer. I don't pay retail. I wait for the crash. So you can take those. It takes about 3 to 4 years to understand it. And the fifth thing. As the ruble gets weaker, export. If you're importing, you get killed. So today with the internet, with the cell phone and all that, you can export all over the world from Russia. I have my wife is her family is from Sweden, my assistant's from Sweden. So I like Swedish words, but anyway. My assistant goes to a thing called a second-hand store. She buys Prada shoes for men and stuff like this. She buys them for $1. She puts them on the World Wide Web and she sells them for $50. So as the ruble gets weaker, it's actually a better time to export than to import. So there's always something you can do that's good, no matter what happens, okay? So, I'll just leave you thinking about this. My assistant makes a lot of money. Her iPhone goes ding, 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 ding. She says, ah, I just made another $50. I made another $100. She's selling junk all over the world through eBay and stuff like Amazon. So I'll leave you with this because of time. But Tom and I like to talk about this. One of the things I don't like about poor people and middle class people, how many people have ever been told to work hard? What's wrong with working hard?
Pay a lot of tax.
The harder you work, the more tax you pay. How many people have ever been told to save money? Why would you save money when they're printing money? How many have ever been told to live below your means? I mean, live cheaply. How many people don't like living below your means? How many people would rather live above your means? Good, you're my kind of people. So, my wife, like I said, she's my most important person in my life. We have a deal. The deal is she can have anything she wants, and I can have anything I want. Anything. Except another woman or another guy, but anything. Sure. So, about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I saw this Porsche. And it's a very special Porsche. It's a 1989 Porsche. Speedster. Very rare car. But more than just a rare car, there was only 700 made. And in 1989, they were selling for $120,000. Not much money today, but it's a lot of money back then. So my friend who owns the Porsche dealership called me up. Just like I said, I'm looking at Rolls Royces. I always go by the Porsche dealership. And my friend at the Porsche dealership called and he says, hey, that Speedster came in. I said, good. He says, that's the rarest of all 89 Speedsters. I said, why is that? He says, it's Speedster number 1. It's the first one ever made. It has toured the world. It's on the cover of a catalog, on the catalog. So I expected to pay $120,000 to $150,000. He says, you won't believe it. It's for sale for $50,000. So the price had dropped to only $50,000. So the agreement between my wife and I is I can have anything I want. So I went to my wife and I said, I want that car. She says, good. How many people have ever heard, no, we can't afford it. Gotta do something up. We don't have any money. We don't have that agreement. So this was the car. Tom has seen it. So this is how I can have anything I want. So this is what it looks like. I just happen to have $50,000 in cash. And the car was $50,000. These are real numbers, was $50,000. If I had paid the $50,000 for this, I'd have a Porsche. But I'd be poor. Because the Porsche is a liability. So all my wife, what does Kim say?
Says, figure out how to pay for it. Where's the asset?
So this is the rule in our family. So all you husbands and wives, listen to this. She says, you can have that Porsche, but you've got to buy an asset. Then the asset buys the Porsche. So I made, like I said, you have to have friends. I called all my friends in real estate. And on my 5th or 6th call, I called my friend in Austin, Texas. And I said, what have you got for sale? And he says, what I have is, that stands for mini warehouse. It's a mini warehouse, it's a small warehouse. He says, you can have it for $250,000. The numbers are perfect. So what did I do, Tom? This is where I need my accountant.
It was pretty simple, actually. Let's move into the middle. So he had $50,000 cash, right? Which is the down payment on the mini warehouse. So instead of buying a Porsche with the $50,000, he bought the warehouse, which means that over here, he had to borrow $200,000. So now his mini warehouse, because it cost $250,000. So he gave up his cash. Now he has a warehouse with debt. Good so far? Who's following? Okay, good. Okay. So there's a warehouse, $200,000. Now that warehouse, after paying for the mortgage and everything, paid $1,000 a month in cash flow.
So I'm making every month extra $1,000 in cash flow. Extra. It's a very good deal. Both were good deals.
So then he goes, okay, now I've got the asset, and I'm going to go buy the Porsche. So the Porsche, he had to borrow $50,000 to buy the Porsche. Cost him $1,000 a month. So now, the $1,000 for the warehouse is not paying for the Porsche.
It gets better. Who knows why it gets better than that?
Потому что кредит выплатится.
Taxes. So, I'm breaking even. I have an asset called a warehouse. I have a liability called a Porsche. I took the $50,000, borrowed $200,000. I now have a $250,000 asset. I now own the Porsche. The warehouse is putting $1,000 in my pocket. The Porsche is now taking $1,000 from my pocket. But it gets better. What happens now? Why does it get better?
Well, now what happens is, because this is an investment, because when you ICOR, the government wants people to invest in real estate. They want people to have many warehouses and commercial properties and residential properties. The government wants you to do that. Well, how does the government encourage you to do something? They give you a tax benefit. In this case, it actually put in another $500 a month in tax benefits. So his taxes went down by $500 a month because of the tax benefits from owning the property. So now he's not just breaking even, now he's actually ahead by $500.
It still gets better. What else?
Well, it gets better because he used the Porsche in his business. Because he used the, when you have business, the government wants you to be in business. So the government gives you tax breaks for being in business. Any expense you have in business gives you a tax benefit. In this case, it was another $200 a month because he drove the Porsche in his business. And because it was a business, now it was in his business, now he gets a business tax benefit. If he just driven it personally, we do anything for personal reasons, we get no tax benefits. But if we do it for business or investing, we get tax benefits. So he just changed how he used it. Instead of using it personally, now he drove it for his business, and now he got another $200 a month.
So, now we can clap. So, I sold this thing a number of years ago. Today, I just got an offer for $175,000 for this. But all these years, I was receiving cash flow for this. I got a free Porsche, and I was paying $700 a month less in taxes. It's called phantom income. It's money I didn't have to pay out. So every month that money was staying in my pocket. So once I had this, I sit down with my wife Kim, and she says, it's yours. So I bought the Porsche. And today, you saw it, right? The offer came.
Yeah, I did. The offer came just this morning.
So I paid $50,000 for the Porsche, and today I was offered $175,000 for that same Porsche. Now I have a tax problem, but I'll pay it. But anyway, the rule of thumb in our family, how many people in this room are here with your spouse, husband or wife? Good, congratulations. In our family, whenever Kim wants something, like she used to drive a black Porsche turbo cabriolet, twin turbo cabriolet. She looks hot, blonde, black car, and all this. And about 2 months later, she saw a white Lamborghini convertible. And so I go, oh, you just bought that damn Porsche. No, that's what the husband would say. She says, So she went out, she found the deal, and today what does Kim drive?
A white Lamborghini.
And she looks better in a white Lamborghini than a black Porsche. So as long as the asset buys the liability and I get tax breaks, we can have anything we want. And the thing about it is, rather than living below our means, Kim and I just go out and look for what we want. So if I can leave you with this lesson, I want you to have everything you want. Never say you can't afford something, because every time you say that, you get poor. So on the way out here, go down there and look at that Rolls Royce convertible and figure out how you're going to buy an asset that's going to pay for the Rolls Royce and pay no tax on it. If you can do that, you're real smart. If you go look at that, it's a nice black convertible. If you go look at that black convertible, Rolls Royce, and you say, I can't afford it, you're poor. So that's the rule my wife and I have. We never say we can't afford anything. So for your last 1 minute of sharing, I want you to sit with that person next to you and explain this deal. Starting with $50,000 in cash, $50,000 in Porsche, $250,000 mini storage, borrowing $200,000, borrowing $50,000 to pay for this, and $1,000 from the mini storage paying for the Porsche, plus getting tax breaks of $700. That's how you get rich. So 1 minute, do your best to explain that to the person sitting next to you. Even if you have no idea what you're saying, lie to the person. Do whatever it takes to get through this process. 1 minute. Explain this deal. Ready, go. For many of you, this doesn't make much sense yet. But if you stick with it, it makes sense. What poor people do is say it's too hard, I can't afford it, I don't need a Porsche. So at least you guys stayed there and went through the process. Because this is how you get rich. It's the poor people who say, I can't afford it, or I'd rather drive a Toyota, or I'd rather do this. That's what it that is, in my opinion, the only difference. So congratulations, those of you who did your best to go through it. That's all I'm doing all day long, is trying to figure out how to have what I like in my life. So today I have my 2 Ferraris, my 2 Porsches, my boat and all that, but every one of them forced me to think. How, the boat, I had to figure out how I was going to create an asset to buy my boat and pay no tax. And what my younger brother said is, I can't afford it. That's why he's a poor man. So thank you for at least doing your best to go through it. So big hand for all of you. Just a big hand for these guys here. Thanks for inviting us. Big hand for this team here. Can you close it up for them?
Итак, внимание, на этом наш вечер сегодня подходит к концу. Есть у нас небольшое объявление. Сейчас давайте еще раз поаплодируем Роберту Кайосаки.